built your very first PC, your gaming PC, your workstation, whatever it is you might use your PC for. You just built it. Maybe you go to power it on and inaccessible boot device, or you can't get into Windows. Windows doesn't come installed on the drive. You need to install that. You need to flash the BIOS, configure the BIOS, install the latest drivers, and get up and running. It's not going to do it for you. You need to do that. And I'm here to help you do that for the very first time. Even if you're a longtime PC enthusiast, you might be a little rusty. And in this video, I'm going to help you. So without wasting any time, let's get started. So before we can actually do anything on that computer, we're going to need two thumb drives. One for the Windows 11 installer. It doesn't come on the drives as it is. And the other for the BIOS and all of the updated drivers. Now the cool thing is we really only need one because MSI includes this with the motherboard. This has all of the drivers and applications and everything. Problem is, the minute they ship it, it's already old. So what we're going to do is we're going to still use this one, but we're going to place the updated BIOS, all of the drivers and everything on this. That way we only need one additional for Windows 11. Now let me show you what we do here. First, you would download and create the Windows 11 installation media. I'm not going to show you in this video how to do that. I have a separate video you could check out after this video, but this is where you would get it from. And I have all of the links down below so you could check it out. Amazon affiliate links as well, so you could buy everything in this video. After you've downloaded and created your media, so then after that, we'll go to the MSI page for the MPG Z890 Edge TI Wi-Fi motherboard. We'll go to the support site, and we'll download the latest and greatest BIOS. That way we have all of the fixes and everything we need to make sure we're tip top. So click download there, and then we'll go to the drivers section. Here we'll download the latest chipset driver. If you're going to be using onboard video, you'll download this here, but I'm not going to. Onboard audio drivers, the sound drivers. LAN, this is for your network port, and Wi-Fi. And for your Bluetooth, then onboard PIDE and SATA drivers. That's the Intel Rapid Storage. So we'll download that here, which may be needed for installing Windows. And let's see what they have under other drivers. We need the ME, the Intel Dynamic Tuning Technology, the NPU drivers, the Serial IO drivers, GNA Scoring Accelerator, and the Intel PMT drivers. Then we'll come over to firmware, and then we'll download the latest and greatest firmware for the USB ports for fast charging. So download here, and let's see what they have under utilities. I'm not going to install that. And definitely the MSI Center, Intel Extreme Tuning Utility. And then if we wanted to download CPU-Z and IDA64, IDA's great. And all right, so we're done here. Now, one very important page related is this tab right over here. This is going to have all of the PWM fan headers. That way you know what to configure in your BIOS. And then we'll go to AMD. Since we're using an AMD graphics card, we'll go to resources and support, then Radeon graphics and AMD chipset, click driver here. Then here we'll go to graphics, scroll down a little, Radeon RX, scroll down a tiny bit more, Radeon RX 9000 series, and then lastly, AMD Radeon RX 9070 XT, since that's what we have here. Then we'll click submit. Then here we'll select our operating system. For me, I'll be using Windows 11. I don't like to do the auto detect. I'll select this one here and click download. Now the Wickle one, or the more safe one, is right below it, but I'd prefer to go right over here. It is a little bit newer, and here it'll tell you everything that it addresses in that update. Then for the liquid cooler, we'll go over to pccooler.com, and then we'll scroll down a tiny bit and we'll click on downloads up here, and then we'll download the ARGB display setup for the little screen on the device. And I like to always research everything I have on here. So the RAM is the ORICO memory. There's no downloads we need here. And for the main M.2, the Kingston Fury, there's nothing here we need. Now it includes Acronis, but we're not going to be using it. And then the Acer FA200 2TB drive that we be using as the secondary drive. So now I'm going to pop in that MSI thumb drive, and it's a little bit different. So it pops up, and I'll go to this PC here. Now, it brings up this one, and at first I thought that's kind of weird, there's no open space, but it's actually a two partition thumb drive. So we have this one that's a CDFS thumb drive. So I'll click on it, and because it does its autoplay, it'll pop up this software here and it shows all of the drivers it detects. Now, mind you, I'm not using that particular MSI board here, so it's not showing everything. And then utilities and security and information, but I'll close that here. You would actually right click on it and then select open. And then you can see all of the drivers and all of the software and everything here. Chipset, network, sound, storage, everything we downloaded is here, but 2022, 2020, they're all older. And again, that was CDFS. That's not FAT32. We can't use that in the BIOS. This second partition is empty. If I right click on it and I go to properties, we can see it's FAT32. So we can actually use that to flash the BIOS as well. So now I'm going to go to the downloads. And I'm going to copy all of the drivers that we just downloaded. I'm going to cut them, and then I'm going to paste them inside of this MSI disk. Might take a second. So what MSI did here with their thumb drive is pretty awesome. A lot of other motherboard manufacturers will just give you links to everything, but if you don't have internet, you can't download anything. You don't have any way of getting that. That thumb drive, even though they're older, has everything you need to get started. And now one other thing I'm going to get, I forgot about this, is 7-zip rather than using Windows compression. This way we can more easily decompress things on the new computer. And paste it here. So now that we're done here, I highly recommend you open up the RST driver. Just double click in here, go to the F6 driver, copy them, Control C or right click copy, and paste them at the root of this drive. And we can also do, let's just call it RAID, and then we'll paste it in there. Sometimes during a Windows install, Windows requires extra drivers that might not be on that media, the RAID drivers. So what we're doing here is we're copying them all to a spot on that thumb drive so that if Windows does see, hey, there's no drive here, I know, we'll load those RAID drivers and then it'll see all those drives. Even though you may not be in RAID, the controller is still a RAID controller. Then afterwards, we have the BIOS file. You'll notice it's a .zip file. All of these are going to be .zipped over here. You can see the little icon here, the folder with a little zipper on it. In order to use any of these, you're going to have to extract them, which is why we downloaded 7-zip. But like we unzipped the RAID drivers, we need to copy the BIOS to the root of that drive, the root of the iDrive, and the BIOS is right over here. So now when we flash the BIOS, we can go to this folder and we find the BIOS here. So then we're done here. So now let's take the Windows 11 installer and all of the drivers to the new PC. Now connecting your PC, we're just gonna first connect all of the USB devices we have, since that's gonna be pretty much universal. And we might have a lot. Thankfully, this board has a bunch of USB ports. And then we're going to be plugging in the graphics card. If you don't have a graphics card, you would plug in your monitor here. But since we do have a graphics card, we'll plug it into the graphics card. And you can either use HDMI or DP. I'm connected to a capture card so I can capture all the video, which is an HDMI capture card. Then also, the motherboard brings a wireless adapter. So you would connect that right over here. And thankfully, you don't need to screw anything in. It just plugs in. And then one of the most important is you're going to want to plug in the power supply. Just make sure it's on 0 or off. And plugging your power to the power supply. Now, so that you can use it, it's always best to put it on 1 because that's where it delivers power to the computer. Or I like to say put it on I for Iggy. Now that we've prepared the media and inserted the thumb drives, let's go ahead and turn on the computer for the first time so that we can flash the BIOS, configure the BIOS, install Windows, install the drivers, and get ready to do everything. All right, now turning her on for the first time. Oh, forgot to flick the power switch. Now turning her on for the first time. There's supposed to be a graphic on here. Sweet. And as soon as we start seeing the keyboard lighting up, we'll start tapping the delete key to enter the BIOS. Now we're in the BIOS and we're recording. The system is a little loud because we have not configured the PWM fans yet. Before we bother setting anything up here, let's go into M flash up here. System will do an auto reboot. That's cool. Yes. So as you saw, it'll start and restart on its own, which is completely normal. All right, so we'll come to this screen, the M flash screen, and then we'll select generic flash disk. So obviously we're not going to choose this one because that's our SSD, and this one more than likely is the MSI one, generic flash disk. And then we'll go to, actually that's the Windows one, so we'll click vendor, and then here we can see the RAID folder we made and the BIOS file. We'll click there, and then we'll select this one. Now it's going to check the BIOS, so we'll click yes. All right, now it's updating the BIOS. One sec. Now you can see at the top left-hand corner here, we're going from BIOS version 2.A20 to 2.A70. And while this is going here, I'll show you on the screen all the BIOS updates from the old version to the new version. And while at least we can see the CPU is staying nice and cool at 32 degrees Celsius. It should power back on any second now. There we go. And again, as soon as we see the keyboard light up, we'll start tapping the delete key. All right, so now we are in the BIOS. We'll choose Intel defaults for now and close out of here. And I prefer to be in the advanced BIOS. It's been some time since I've set up an Intel board, so this may be fun. So we are in 726, and we'll set that. Always make sure you set your BIOS time before you install Windows, because then it'll be wrong in Windows when you correct it. Then you'll need to activate. So this way you'll have some time in between then. And it is 2:45, and I think it's in military time. Yep. So 2:45, set that. Here we can see the SATA SSD. Then we can see our Kingston SSD, which is on the primary right over here, and the Acer FA200, which is the secondary under the big old heatsink down there. Let's come out of there. Now we'll go over here under Advanced, PCIe subsystem settings. We'll select the first one to Gen 5, and the second one we'll set to Gen 4. There's nothing else in here. Resize bar enabled, and let's see PCIe ASPM settings. Okay, and then coming out of there under ACPI, and we're just going over all of the BIOS settings real quick just to make sure we don't need to change anything, or whatever we do need to change. Graphics card detection set to ignore. Since we have a graphics card here, we don't need to verify that there is onboard graphics. Onboard LAN enabled, perfect. Network stack disabled. BT tile mode, and we're not using RAID, though we still may need the drivers. There are a lot of settings, so I'm not going to go over everything. Okay. And overclock mode. What I'm looking for here, typically it's perfectly fine to leave those all to auto, and we'll enable AVX support since the 265S does support AVX. And what I'm looking for here, there we go. We want to make sure we enable XMP since this RAM does have XMP profiles. We'll leave all of this set to auto since XMP takes care of it all for you. As you can see right down here, it sets everything for you, so it's best not to touch this. Just checking to see if there's anything that we need to set here. If there is later on, I'll come and mention it, but as for right now, everything looks good so far. TPM 2.0 is enabled, perfect. Boot, see here, full screen, go to BIOS, a hard disk, and let's see anything else. We'll go under hardware monitor up here. So here we have CPU fan, we're under smart mode, smart fan mode, and see down here we're under PWM. The fan is right up there, and that's this guy right over here. So it is actually DC, so that's perfect. It's detected properly. So if we come over here to the pump, that's actually detected properly as well. But I'm going to set this to smart fan mode so that we have some curves over here, and then that way you can see the fan curve already started, which is beautiful. That'll help cool it when it needs to, or slow down when it doesn't need to. So then we can see there's nothing plugged into here. Then we have sys fan 6. I'm going to set that one to smart fan mode as well so that it has a curve. Okay, so we can see that We're on PWM here, down here on the motherboard, and then PWM right up here. So we're perfect there. All right, so I'm gonna save and exit. So I'm gonna come out of here. Let's see if there's anything else we need to set over here. I'm gonna come into profile, and all these settings, just in case something happens, I'm going to save these settings over here under profile 1. Let's name it initial, and F10 to save and exit, and yes. All right, so now we're booting off of the thumb drive, the Windows 11 install media, and we'll choose next. Install now. That's okay. We're not using an unattended answer file. So install now. Okay, that's weird. Because we have the other thumb drive plugged in there. So it thinks that there's an unattended file on here. So let's go ahead. We may need to restart. Okay, perfect. So now we'll click I don't have a product key. Now, whatever version of Windows we have a key for. If we don't have a key and we plan on buying one later, we can always install it later. I'm going to use Pro 11 and I'll select next. We'll have 90 days before we need to enter a key. So I'll click I accept after reading through all of this incredibly important information and click next. Custom. Here it actually sees all the drives, so we don't need the RAID drivers. So here I'm going to select the Kingston Renegade drive, since that came up as the primary. If you remember, the Samsung came up first, the standard SSD, then the Kingston, and then down here was the Acer. Okay, then I'll click next. I didn't create a new partition or anything. I just selected the drive I wanted to install Windows on. Then I click next. So this is going to take less than 7 minutes. 1 second. So when you go to install, after you flash the BIOS, make sure to remove the thumb drive. If not, it might think that it has an unattended file and it might mess up the install. So just in case, when you're installing Windows, if you have a separate thumb drive installed for like drivers and everything, make sure you remove that thumb drive, because like you saw here, it might think there's an unattended file in there and try to boot off of it, which it won't find it. So here we'll click restart. All right, so here we'll select our country or region and click yes. And keyboard layout, and then select yes. Want to add a second keyboard layout? No thanks, skip. Let's connect you to a network. No thanks. So here we'll hit Shift F10 to open up a command prompt. Then we'll click on the command prompt. Here we'll type in OOBE / bypass NRO and press enter. That'll restart the system and take us back into the setup. We did the bypass NRO to skip it asking us to connect to the internet so that we have to use a Microsoft account. I have one, but not everybody does, so that should help you bypass that. If that particular command doesn't work, let me know. I have an alternate one. All right, then we'll do this all over again. Thankfully, we weren't that far. Okay, I don't have internet, which didn't show up before. Now we can skip all that. So continue with limited setup. It's not really limited. Shh. Okay, enter your name. ThisBytesForYou and next. Password, no thanks. We'll click next. And I'll leave this all default. You can make changes if you like, and I accept. All right, now we're in Windows. We can remove the Windows 11 installer, and now we can plug back in the MSI thumb drive that, awesomely enough, MSI included. Okay, so now we'll just click on File Explorer and we'll go to this PC. So again, here's the one that we filled up on our own, and here's the one MSI brought. Now, one thing we're going to do is right-click on the Start button, go to Disk Management. Remember, we had two M.2 drives. So right here, we're going to initialize that second drive and make sure always select GPT. MBR's old, you don't need it. Click OK. And now if we scroll down a tiny bit, we'll see this disk 2, or whatever disk it could be on your machine, showing unallocated. So over here, we don't see it. We see the Samsung and our Kingston drive, but not the Acer. So we'll come back over here. We'll right click on unallocated. We'll select New Simple Volume. Next. Make sure you select the size you want. Leave it default like I do if you'd like. Next. Give it a drive letter. You can always change it, but we'll select that one for now. Next. And then here we'll call it Acer. Then make sure to leave it on Perform a Quick format. If not, that could take a long time. And next. And finish. That'll take a few seconds. And then that pops up. And now we have the Acer drive. So that's how you enable a secondary drive. So now if we double click on this MB support CD, and we'll click yes here on UAC, which reminds me, it's not very secure, but I'll click on the Start button and type UAC. I'll click Change User Account Settings, and I'll lower this so that Windows doesn't ask me, are you sure you want to do this for everything I'm sure I want to do? Then I click OK. And yes, it's a big security issue, but that's okay. Now, these are all the drivers that come on that thumb drive. So it's great, again, that MSI includes this thumb drive that has all the drivers built onto it, so that way, if you don't have an internet connection, you can use that and you can be up and running within minutes. If you do have access to a separate machine, I recommend, like I did, download all the latest and greatest. That way you can apply it and you don't need to use these that come on that drive, but it's great that they're there. And one very important thing, if you're going to use these, scroll all the way down. Make sure you uncheck that garbage. Anyway, under Utilities, we'll find MSI Center, an older version, 7-zip. Actually, we didn't even need to download it. It's right there, but anyway. And then Intel Extreme Tuning Utility, CPU-Z, and IDA 64, all great pieces of software, except for that. but we unchecked it. Security, that's not security. And system information, this shows us everything in our system. Mind you, if we don't have drivers, it's not going to really find anything. But anyway, we can close out of this unless we want to install it, but I'll close out of there. Now we'll go to MSI disk. I like to copy all my drivers, select, and then right click, copy. I like to paste them in a drivers folder. Okay, that way when we're installing, there is no disconnect between USB, potentially causing an issue. And all right, so the first thing you should always install on a new system is the chipset driver. But because I want 7-zip and it's not going to cause an issue since it only places files, we'll double click on 7-zip and install. And now we're good, we can use 7-zip. So what I'm going to do for all of these, I'll start with chipset, is I'm gonna right click on it, then I'm gonna click show more options, 7-zip, extract to Intel chipset. So now it's extracting that zip file into a folder named Intel chipset. You never install a file from a zip file because it's not going to install all the other files correctly. Now this is a single file, that might be okay, but for example, let's see, MPU. For example, MPU. We'll go into the MPU. This is inside the zip file. It's not going to find all of these files while you're installing. So that's because it's in a zip. So again, just come in here, right click, show more options, 7-zip, extract to the folder. And then as I'm doing that, I'll just delete the zip file. So 1 second. All right, now that we're done with everything, the very first one we're going to install is the Intel chipset. So go in here. That's the foundation of the motherboard, which is the foundation of your entire system. And next, accept, install. And by the way, right click on the start button and we'll go to device manager. You'll notice all of these yield signs here. This is because we don't have any drivers installed. We just installed chipsets, so a few of them went away because they're correct now, but all of these will be gone as soon as we install drivers. So we'll come back into this in a second. So coming out of here, we'll click finish. Now, typically I like to install from the chipset outwards. So now after that, we'll go to the ME drivers. We'll install that. Accept, next. We'll go to Intel Serial IO. And double click down here. Yes, accept, next. Next, next. Go to Intel GNA Scoring Accelerator. Coming out of there. DTT ARL. MPU. Okay, the killer network. Custom. I like to see what I'm installing. Okay. Been a while since I heard about Killer Nick. And download Killer Control Center. Let's save that for later. Since we don't have an internet, actually we do now, but anytime the software asks you to restart, do recommend you restart, but not through here. So we'll click no, right click, shut down or sign out, and restart. 1 sec. The reason I recommend to restart anytime software asks you to, and the reason why I do it this way, but the reason why I tell you to do that is because it needs to write things to the registry and in different portions, a lot of which can't be accessed while you're using Windows. So if you install other things on top of that, you might overwrite something this needs. It's always best to restart, and the reason I do it outside of the program, restarting, is because sometimes there's things going on in the background, so the installer really hasn't finished. So I like to tell it no. Sometimes those things will pop up, then they'll come down, and then you can restart manually. So once we're back in Windows, come back into File Explorer, this PC, C drive, drivers, and let's go ahead and install the BT drivers, Bluetooth, custom, Nothing here. Since we're not using a PCI Bluetooth device, we're using a USB one. Next, and install. PCI or PCIe. Finish. Coming back out of here. Realtek Audio. Scroll down. Setup. Next. Okay. Like I showed you, no. Finish. And then restart. Thankfully, it's quick, so we'll go back into File Explorer. This PC C drive drivers. Now we'll install the graphics driver. I like to uncheck this, but then I come under Additional Options, Software Type Default. This is a clean install, but I like to do a factory reset no matter what. Then Accept and Install. Okay. Uncheck this guy and this one here and close. And now let's install the CPS display. Double click here. That's for this right over here. Anyone that uses this computer. Next. Install. Finish. I should have unchecked that. That's okay. Okay, so now it's going to show all of the stats and everything on the system. And now you see logo came up there. Now I'm gonna change that logo real quick. One sec. Ooh, I forgot to download Chrome. 1 second. Oh, I gotta be on the internet. 1 sec. Okay, now I connected to Wi-Fi, and let's go ahead and download Chrome real quick. 1 sec. Okay, so then let's go ahead and settings. Okay, let me just change it. Oh, here we go. Upload. Switch background, and now we'll select this one. There we go. That's pretty cool. All right, getting out of there for now. So we've uploaded everything, and now the MSI utility started. Although we didn't start it on our own, so let's cancel this for now. Extreme Tuning Utility from Intel. We don't need to use this, but if you want to play with that, you can. And let's go ahead and install the correct MSI Center. Okay, install. While that's installing, we'll right-click here. We'll go to Device Manager. Everything's gone. We've installed everything. Everything is working as it should. Close and finish here. So as it is now, Windows is completely installed and it'll work. There's a little bit more we need to do to make sure it's perfect and to make sure everything keeps working as it does as time passes. Now, just because we're on a fresh install of Windows doesn't mean we're immune to updates. So click on the Start button, type Updates, and click Check for Updates. We'll full screen this. I like to get the updates as soon as they're available. Under Advanced Options, I like to receive updates for other Microsoft products. Then I'll go back over here, and then I'll check for updates. A lot of people have issues with Windows updates. I never really do, so I always enable all that. And you see, even though this is a fresh install of Windows, we just created the media. There's a bunch we need to download. So 1 second while I download and install everything. All right, once this is done downloading, let's go ahead and restart. All right, after we're done restarting, let's go ahead and see if there's any more updates. All right, let's retry here. Yep, some more updates, so 1 sec. Okay, gotta restart again, 1 sec. All right, after another restart, let's come back in here and verify there are no more updates. All right, no more updates, so we can close out of here. Now, we're going to want to check just to make sure we're getting the most performance out of our system. So we'll right-click on the background, then we'll click Display Settings. Then here, we'll scroll down a tiny bit and then click Advanced Display. All right, here we see we're at 59.94. My monitor can do up to 120. Yours might be able to actually do more. So we'll select that. the highest your monitor can support. Keep those changes. Then we can close out of here. Right click again on the background and now select AMD Software Adrenaline Edition. We can skip all this. I'm going to full screen this and I'm going to click on the little gear right up here. Then I'm going to click on display. Then make sure, if it's not already enabled, that AMD FreeSync Premium Pro is enabled. If it's not, just enable it to make sure that you're getting the best performance out of your system. 60 to 120 Hertz is going to help out a ton. 60 to 360 or whatever your monitor may be will definitely help out a ton as well. Then also enabling FreeSync or G-Sync or whatever adaptive sync technology your monitor might support, enable that as well. Both of those together will help you a ton. Lastly, if we go under File Explorer, this PC, this kind of bugs me. Let me disconnect all those thumb drives. Actually, that single thumb drive. Local disk is C, Samsung is D, and the Acer drive is G. I like to make them alphabetical, so I'll right click on the start button. Disk management. Now, since there's nothing in between, we'll right click on the Acer one, then we'll select change drive letter and paths, then select change. Then here we can select E, or even B or A, but E, yes. And mind you, because there's nothing installed on that drive, that'll work. If there was something installed, then you might get errors. But now we'll come over here, it's C, D, and E. So that just looks a lot more appealing to me. So in this video, I've taken you from the very beginning, connecting your PC for the first time, powering it on for the very first time, which is a little nerve-wracking, flashing the BIOS, configuring the BIOS, installing Windows, and all of the drivers. And before that, we prepared. We made sure we downloaded all those drivers, the BIOS, and prepared a Windows 11 install media. We did it all in this video. Now you know exactly what to do next time you build your PC, and well, you want to get it up and running. So if you're curious on how I built this machine, or even why I built it the way I built it, check out this video up above, and always my latest down below. Iggy with ThisBytesForYou out. See you guys.